Welcome to the Fractured Families podcast. I'm Charity, your dedicated parental alienation coach, here to guide and support families as they navigate the challenges of high conflict divorces and custody battles. On this podcast, we'll share insights, practical strategies, and hope for those on the journey toward healing and justice. Whether you're personally experiencing these challenges or just want to learn more about the complexities of parental alienation and custody disputes, you're in the right place. You are not alone. This is the Fractured Families podcast, where every voice matters and every story is heard. And if you find my conversation helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us reach more families who need it. Hey, thanks for joining the Fractured Families podcast. I'm Charity, your host. I have with me today Scott. He comes to us all the way from Australia. Scott has been fighting parental alienation for over 2 years. He has not seen his daughters for almost a year at this point. He's going to share with us his legal battle, his custody battle, and how he has already spent over $400,000. Not only is he alienated, but his whole family has been separated from the children as well. Scott, thanks for joining the Fractured Families podcast. Why don't you get us started? Tell us a little bit about what the relationship was like with the children's mother.
Yeah, we were married for approximately 10 years. Look, there were some red flags that I think we could all sort of identify that I sort of ignored. She didn't actually even want kids in the beginning. And I remember having a fight very early on about whether we were going to have kids or not. And I think she just sort of gave up on that and decided to have kids. We didn't even plan it. She just all of a sudden said she was pregnant when we weren't planning on having children, but eventually that just happened. I suppose it was rather uneventful right up until the very end. There was a few things and a few sort of, as we've sort of discussed, narcissistic personality disorders. She would leave the kids with me. She would dump the kids on me. She would basically, if I went away for the weekend for whatever reason, whether it be work or social, I'd get calls saying, come home, you need to come and take the kids. All those sort of things would happen. But I sort of thought it was normal. And there was nothing really that I think I could identify throughout those 10 years that were too drastic, but that all of a sudden changed come separation.
So the separation, how did that unravel? Was that your decision? Was that her decision?
So she decided to have an affair with her boss at work, which was a Catholic school, by the way. So she had an affair with her boss at a Catholic school and then come and told me about that, asked me to keep it quiet, asked me to protect her interests, which for approximately 9 months we did. So without any parenting orders or without any written agreement for 9 months post-separation, it was actually okay. And we verbally agreed to have 50-50 custody, and there was not an issue within that 9 months post-separation. So I kept her secret. She didn't say anything to me. And that all of a sudden changed about sort of 7 or 8 months later when I started seeing other people, getting a girlfriend, and wanted to make sure that, or try and purchase and buy her out of the family home, which she didn't want to do.
So when did the separation, what year was that?
2022, July.
How old were the
roughly.
kids?
6 and 8, roughly.
So you let her have her grace. You separated. You moved out.
She moved out of the family home, actually.
So
I stayed in
out.
the family home. Yeah.
And what was the relationship like with your children prior to that?
Completely normal, loving dad. Very sporty. My girls are very sporty. I'd take them to sport, soccer, netball, gymnastics, rides around the park. I would have said I was probably more active in the parenting than she was in terms of the activities. Of course, we'd both jointly do dinners, prep meals, school lunches. She'd normally do school drop-off. I'd normally do school pickup. But I would have said that if it wasn't equal, it would have been slightly leaned on my side in terms of the activities and doing things with the children. We did holidays with her family. We did holidays with my family. Everything we did with the kids. So for her to go and say I've not been a non-active father is completely and utterly wrong.
So she moves out and you have 50-50. What was the relationship like with the children on her side and your side after that split? Because, of course, we know that divorce impacts kids. 50-50 helps with that transition, but there's still always a little bit of stress and uncertainty for them.
Absolutely. And considering the way it went about, I thought I couldn't have been more amicable. As I said, for 9 months, we had an unwritten agreement, unsigned, not written up, no contracts, no nothing. There was weekends where we would swap. There was days where we would swap. There was, I can't have the kids here. Can you have them? I can't have them this weekend. Can you have them? For 9 months, it was just basically 50-50 parenting. And if I couldn't have them, she would have them, and vice versa. It was as amicable as I think it could have been. There was birthdays that were on my weekend that we would swap. There was Father's Days that were on hers that we would swap. It seemed rather amicable for 9 months. Even financially, while I was still paying the mortgage totally myself for the house, I was still paying for some of her rent. Like, I was paying all the mortgage and paying for her rent. I was loading up bikes in the back of her car for her to take them camping. It was as amicable as I think it could be, which means for me personally, as much as the relationship's bad on everybody or the relationship breakdown, it was the best thing for the kids. And it seemed to be working as best it could in that situation until she decided to change all that.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Yeah. So 9 months later, as I said, only about a month and a half after I introduced the kids to my new partner and decided that financially, because the financial split hadn't all happened, that was still obviously in the works, was going to buy out the house that I was living in. And it all went downhill from there. And it was really, really quick. So like I know with other countries, similar in this country, that if a female goes into a police station and claims foul, then that's where it started to go downhill. So about a week before, in this country, they're called AVOs, apprehended violence orders, which is similar to all other countries. About a week before, I got a phone call from her sister, who is a police officer, who said to me that if you don't give the kids to the sister, then she was going to help her basically do whatever she needed to do to get those kids. So a week later, I had police rock up on my door with an ADVO, serving me an ADO, saying that basically the mother had said that I'm a threat to her, that I'm a threat to the children, and that I couldn't see any of them. Now, the strangest part about that is that the mother drove past 2 or 3 police stations to go to the police station where her sister works. And it was taken out by a friend of the sister at Windsor Police Station in New South Wales. So I can't for the life of me understand how that happens. They never spoke to me. They never interviewed me. They never checked or corroborated any of the details, and simply went slap. There you go. That's it. And that was 9 months and about 100 grand fighting that reward, fighting that piece of paper.
So normally, if you didn't have a sister in the police department, would there be a court hearing for this type of order?
So if she'd have done it without the sister, she may have still got it anyway. And I know a lot of other people in this country go through similar things. They can go and apply to the police, and the police can decide to issue an AVO to basically anyone. You get a mention within a month or two. So you go to court and you get to plead guilty or not guilty. But if you plead not guilty, which the majority of people do, it can be anywhere from 8 to 12 months before you get your day in court. So basically you are guilty until proven innocent, and that could be up to 9 months. So from that point on, and from that day, and I still remember it, February 3rd, because I was due to pick up the children that afternoon from school and take them away for the weekend. I did not see my kids. I could not phone my kids. I could not speak my kids. If I accidentally ran into my kids in the street, I could be locked up.
So can we ask what the allegations were?
So the allegations were largely around my mental health and that I was apparently suicidal. She'd also lied to the police and said that I'd spent 3 or 4 days in a psychiatric hospital or being institutionalized, which was completely untrue. But no one ever checked those details. Even when I went into police to try and offer up those details, they said it's not our job to sort out proof to prove innocence and guilt. It's our job to just do that. That's the court's job. You'll have to wait for your day in court. So they wouldn't even speak to me or listen to me about any of it. So, and that was it. So basically, once you use the word, she was fearful and the children were fearful, that was it.
So this happens February 3rd. And then do you get your day in court after that?
For that ADVO, it didn't actually get to that. About 9 months later, they actually did a deal and withdrew that because she applied for a second one. So I went through, so obviously there's 2 fights. There's the criminal fight with the AVDO going on, and then there's the family fight going on in family court. So during family court at that time, I got that date about 3 to 4 months after February, and I was told to basically, you can't see your kids unless it's supervised. So I had to have my mother with me supervised to do that. And that went on for approximately 9 to 10 months. So, albeit that I'm a school teacher and can go to school and teach thousands of children of all ages, but I can't be alone with my own children, which is absolutely ridiculous. With, again, no evidence, no proven evidence, no documented evidence, no nothing, no independent evidence. So about 9 months later, we were due our day in family court, where we finally got my first hearing, where we were allowed to produce evidence. And because this other ADVO had been withdrawn, she basically reneged and basically said, well, I'm going to lose this, and I'm going to give you back the kids 50-50. And about 2 weeks before that court date, I got served with another ADVO because she went into the police and said that I had threatened her and the children, which didn't happen at all. So again, I get my second one. So that day in court that I was going to get in family court, which we were going to win and get the kids back, got delayed again, because every time you have an ADVO sitting in the background, no judge wants to make any decision against you.
So after the first filing, you finally get supervised visits with the kids.
Yeah.
How do you see them and their personalities, if at all, changing during this now?
Drastically. In the past 2.5 years, I've seen my kids go from happy-go-lucky children, excited to go outside and explore and do things, to basically withdrawn. They don't want to talk to anyone. They still want to do activities, but it takes a bit of time to warm up. For example, I couldn't do things that I've always done with my girls, like go on bike rides, bushwalks, motorbike riding, and going to like the local Wet and Wild park where there's water slides. I can't do that. So I was with my elderly mother, who was fantastic and brilliant the whole way through, but she can't do all those exercises. So the normal activities that we would do basically go out the window. I can't do them. And I've even got letters from the other side where we've asked for permission to do those types of things, where they've said, you can sit home and watch movies. They didn't care. They didn't care that relationship was being stripped. And in fact, that was the whole idea and plan of what they were doing, because then the girls get this image of me where dad doesn't want to do these things with me anymore. And that's completely untrue. But I can't say to them, I'm not allowed to go and do this, I'm not allowed to go and do this because of these reasons, because I'm not allowed to talk about it with the kids. So basically the whole relationship has been undercut and destroyed over the course of the 2.5 years. And the kids are too young to understand, and get to the point where they're forced to pick a side. And that's the unfortunate part that we're at now, because I've paid, I think, over $30,000 for 3 separate family reports written by professionals. The first 2 of them were very, very, very supportive of me. And in fact, the first one was very unsupportive of the mother for restricting that time. But as we've gone along, they become more supportive of the mother, because the images that the girls portray of me become very undercut and very led and very guided by the mother. I haven't had quality time with my children alone since February 2023. So how do I develop or maintain a relationship in any way, shape, or form?
And do you speak to them now at all? FaceTime?
So not allowed to FaceTime because they weren't allowed a modern phone. They're only allowed one of the older phones. For whatever reason the court ordered that, I don't know. I think the mother said she was scared if I could see people in the background. That was her reason. So they're only allowed to use an older phone, and we have court orders that we can ring, or they can ring me. I'm not allowed to ring them. They can ring me every second night. And I've spoken to the oldest every second night, but the youngest has not spoken to me since February this year. So at the last, and the reason I could sort of say for that is that, again, I'm back on supervised visits, this time at a professional institution. A professional has to come out and do it. So my mother's not even allowed to do that anymore. So the professional comes out. At the last one, I got a report that says Madison saw me from 50 meters away and sprinted into my arms. So sprinted into my arms. Now, the girls told me that the minute that report got to the mum, that she got upset and she yelled and screamed and shouted at Madison, how dare she be excited to see me? Since that point in time, I have not spoken or seen Madison, even though she is court ordered to do so. So I've had a few supervised visits with my oldest daughter, Emma, and speaking to Emma every second night. but the youngest daughter I have not spoken to in months.
It's just so heartbreaking because you see that she's excited, you see that she wants that relationship, and even though there's still chaos, she's running into your arms. And for her to get in trouble for that, what happens with these children is they succumb to that, right? They just end the relationship with that targeted loving parent because of the pressure that they have to ignore their happiness and pretend like it didn't exist.
Absolutely.
And the courts don't see that.
No, nor do they want to see that.
No.
Nor do they care about seeing that. And the unfortunate part here in Australia, and I'm not sure if you were aware, but there's a bit of history that I've been working on where 30, 40, 50 years ago, the Australian government was responsible for taking Aboriginal kids away from their family, called the stolen generation. There's a movement over here at the moment where this is a whole stolen generation of children that are being ripped out of fathers, father's care, and it's state sponsored. It is state sponsored and government mandated to the point where the Labor government in Australia has made it harder and harder for judges to rule in favour of the fathers, even if there's nothing there. And in fact, they're just saying that fathers are unimportant and unnecessary in any children's lives. We have no rights. So the human rights of a father just don't exist at all. And I'm now waiting, actually going into court later today to try and get a final hearing date, which could be, I've been told, anywhere from 12 to 18 months away. So I could miss by the end of this an entire 5, 6, 7 years of my children's life, spend almost $500,000 to not get anywhere. And I'm being told that even if she gets proven that what she has done is completely wrong, because she's had them for 2, 3, 4 years, by that point in time, they won't, even if she gets proven to be the abuser, which she is, they won't take them off her. Like, it's just wrong.
It is absolutely criminal. And the logic is ridiculous that we're not going to remove a child from the care of a parent with whom they've primarily resided due to our error because it's too traumatizing. But you are okay with ripping a father away from the children's life, doing the exact same thing, and you're not concerned about those consequences?
Absolutely.
So it's hypocritical because they're doing exactly what they say they don't want to do when you finally do get your day in court and they determine the children should spend time with you. But then the children age out. And here in the US, they say, well, they're 14 and 16. We let them make up their decisions about what they want now after
Yep.
all that.
Yep. And they get deluded into thinking that
Yeah.
I'm the bad guy for the
Yeah.
4 or 5 years prior to that.
So your daughter, Emma, you speak with her. How was that?
Yeah, I think it goes in waves. It's up and down. I think deep down, the girls know that they're loved and they know that I'm fighting to spend time with them without me directly saying that. They really do. But they are so manipulated and biased because of what I just said about being fearful of the mother. Like, if you can't run to me and give me a hug without getting in trouble, then what does that teach you? And every time I've taken 2 or 3 steps forward to getting custody back, there's been another allegation. There's been no proof. There's been no proof about anything this whole way along. And for example, I asked to record phone calls because there was alleged allegations with phone calls that I was trying to manipulate the kids. I said, that's fine. How about I record them? I got torn to shreds in court for asking that. And I also got torn to shreds by the mother for asking that and her lawyer for asking that because, again, only a couple of days ago, I get more allegations where I was misleading and Emma was upset after a phone call with me. And honestly, I recorded, like, on notes. I always take notes of the phone call. It was, how was your day? How are you going? How was school? How was sport? That was it. It's 2.5 minutes long. So it's just a way for the mother to breed that sense of insecurity in the girls that I'm a danger and I'm a threat. And that's horrendous and horrible. More to the point now that my grandparents, who I said already, my mother was a primary carer of my daughters their entire age. She actually retired and gave up work. And so the mother could go back to work and she was a primary carer for 2 or 3 days a week. The mother is not letting my sister, the cousins, and my parents see or speak to the girls at all.
Well, the reason behind that is she doesn't want there to be another side of the story. She can't keep up her facade of what a horrible person you are and your family is if they go to them and they have a good experience. because that creates doubt for the children, and she couldn't dare have that. She's worked so
Yep.
hard to brainwash them already. She can't dare let them go into an environment where there's any seeds of doubt that there is positive for you or your family's side.
Yep. Absolutely. And it's heartbreaking for them because, as I said, my mother's been raising both my girls since they were 6 months old, and she cannot see them. She will not let them see them at all. And it's just heartbreaking for my entire family. So last Christmas, we've missed it. This Easter, coming up Easter, we're going to miss them. We're going to, all these primary events in the kids' lives, we will not be a part of in any way, shape, or form.
And it's all intentional.
Yep.
So let's talk about the house sale. How did that unravel?
So basically, back then when I said that I was going to purchase the house and buy the house out, she said to me multiple times, and it wasn't amicable conversations, that how dare I keep the house. She moved out so that the kids would have some stability, but then she thought I'd move out, we'd sell the house and we'd start again, all those types of things. She basically, that was the house she chose. That was the house she elected for us to buy and extend ourselves probably beyond our means to go into. I was surprised at the ease in which she moved out, but I found out later that she'd moved down the road from her new boyfriend. That's why she'd moved out. So anyway, once I said that, it was all downhill from there. She basically said from that point on to me, and I wish I'd recorded all these conversations back then, but you don't, that she will do anything she can to not let me have 50-50 of the kids, and anything that she will do to not let me have the house. So to the point where I actually do have a text message in July. I don't know if you'd like me to read that, but
Yes, I would.
there's a text message back in July, 2 seconds, that I shown this to police, used in court. And after all the non-evidence that I proved, I actually finally had some evidence and proved this, and they didn't use it. So it says, "You're a fucking asshole. I hope you die. I will do anything and everything to make sure you never see the kids again. I'm not stopping until you are locked up in jail." So that was sent in July 2024. And I showed that to police, gave them all that evidence, used it in court. Basically, no excuse has anyone given for that. I was actually given my own protection order for about 24, 48 hours before the sister, that was a police officer, demanded that it be removed. So I had my own protection order against the mother for once, which I thought was great. And then the sister went into the police station and demanded that that be removed. So, like, I don't know what, if I'd have done that, if the roles were reversed, I'd still be locked up probably now.
Oh, yeah.
But she can do that, and it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So every little thing that I do or don't do gets used against me, and everything that she does, just water off a duck's back. It doesn't matter. So even to the point where she denied sending that text message, but the police proved that it was from her number.
It just blows my mind. And I just recently did a post about this, how she cheated. She peacefully left because she was doing whatever she was doing. She was amicable in shared custody. But as soon as you decide to sell the house, they lose their mind. I hear this so often. I don't know if the house in their mind is a beacon of hope or what the reason is, but I hear it so often that it's the house that really unhinges them. Not that the marriage ended, not that they got caught being unfaithful. It's that you're moved on and you're going to sell the property. And then they go do what they do.
I think the other thing that I think is a big one is the fact that it's the image that you portray as a parent. We were always shared and we were always doing things together, but the kids had started to gravitate towards me in that 9 months. And the house may have had something to do with it as well.
Yeah.
They started to say things like, "I'd rather stay here and I don't want to go back and I want to stay here," and all those types of things, which I'd encourage 50-50 and never keep the kids. I never did. But once she got wind of that, that was it. That couldn't happen. She had to destroy that persona and that image. And that was when it became an us against them mentality, and still is to this day. Like, this is not about the children. This is about her image and her persona in the big wide world. And if she's got full custody, then she's the better parent, even though we all know that that's not the case. She's the better parent. And if I don't have any custody, then she's valid in her reasons for leaving. And she's been basically justified in her decision making thus far.
So at the time when you decided to sell the house, you were in a relationship.
Yes.
How did she feel about that?
Not great. There are a couple of aggressive phone calls that we had at that time. And she said, how dare I introduce a new partner to my children? How dare I? Because she's also got two kids exactly the same age as my girls. So 2 boys and 2 girls, exactly the same. The 4 kids get along great. And how dare I introduce them to, how dare I take them away on holidays together? How dare we go away for the weekend? All those types of conversations, to the point where my new partner witnessed some of these phone calls and said, wow, that's aggressive. So basically, just before, a few weeks before I said about that AVO, I'd started to actually really limit and cut back the contact and try and go no contact at all, other than outside of the children. To that point, we'd still been talking about everything, our lives, our friends, our parents, all that sort of stuff. I basically had said a couple of weeks before that I think we need to just cut this down to being about the kids and not about anything else. And that didn't go down well either. So that's just sort of how it went. But in terms of that, the minute we went into court and I started paying this exorbitant amount of money, it was quite quickly that I realized I couldn't keep the house, and I couldn't, because you're spending, like, you have to give, this is the stupid thing about lawyers, you have to give them $5,000 or $10,000 in money up front before they'll even look at you. So I realized quite quickly that financially there was no chance of me keeping the house. So I basically had to move back in with my parents.
Oh.
And that was her goal. That was her goal. And that's when, over the course of the next whatever, I'd spent 100 and 150,000 in criminal court fighting the two AVOs, and then another 300 to 350 in family court, just responding to letters, responding to allegations, fighting for the children, having dates. For example, today we're going in to court later today to set a date, and I've got to pay $5,000 to a lawyer. That's it. We're just setting a date. Like, we know we're setting a date. Just set the date. What do I have to go in to set a date for? It's just court bureaucracy and money laundering and money gathering activities gone crazy. And they wonder why the courts are blocked up, because they're doing stupid things, absolutely ridiculous things to get dates down the track. Like, we know we're going to a final hearing. Just set the final hearing date.
They got to make it seem like it's more than it is, but anyone who's going through it knows it's just smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. The unfortunate part is, though, other people are completely unaware, and I was before being involved in this. So I'm getting feedback, negative feedback from other people saying, why are you spending so much money and why are you fighting so hard, and all of these types of things, because they don't understand. They don't understand the schmozzle that the system is in. They also don't understand how easy it is for a female to go to a police station and say, I fear my ex-partner, and bang, criminal charges, like, for doing nothing. And every allegation I have beat, I have won, I have defended, I have been found not guilty, and all these types of things, but it means nothing.
And the goal is to separate you from the children, because they know how long this takes. And the more time they spend in her care, the more manipulated and brainwashed they become. And to your point, when you finally get the opportunity to have that relationship with them again, they're at an age where either they believe it or they're so emotionally traumatized that they don't even know where to start. And she ultimately won and did exactly what she said she was going to do.
100%. And has instilled this fear in the children, that they have to believe her narrative over her own beliefs, or they have to, otherwise they're scared of her.
Yeah.
So, to the point where she's even engaged the school. The children's school has been engaged and coerced, to the point where they're telling me, my mother and my family, not to go to school anymore because the kids don't want you to go to any of these awards or any of these sporting days or any of these activities. And the school's using, this is what the kids say, but it's not what the kids say. It's what the mother says through the kids.
Yeah.
So they're just using everything and everyone to coerce these children.
And the schools aren't trained to recognize that. They don't have the training. Not only do schools, but police, child protective, therapists, they don't recognize the counterintuitiveness of parental alienation, that it is child psychological abuse. The child is actually being abused and lives in fear. Almost more damaging is child psychological abuse than physical abuse, because it's forever, and that damage is done.
Yep. And I think also it makes the kids feel How guilty are the kids going to feel? Because I've heard of other situations that in 5, 10, 15 years' time, when they realize some of the actions that they have done, which is not their fault, but has been a result of the parental alienation due to the mother's actions, they've been an active participant in that. And again, I say it's not their fault, but they've been coerced into all of these things. How guilty are they going to feel in 15 or 20 years when they go, that didn't happen? Dad wasn't like that. Mum made me say that, or mum made me do that. To the point where I had my oldest daughter testify against me on the stand for one of those AVOs. One, any parent that puts their kids on the stand is horrific. Two, the fact that we proved that she'd lied on the stand because we had other witnesses. She'd been coerced the night before into what to say.
Yeah.
Like that's horrific to put. And at the time, I think she was a 9-year-old girl on the stand to testify against their own father when he hadn't done anything. It's just horrific.
That trauma doesn't go away. That psychological abuse doesn't go away. And you're right, they have that guilt. They have that guilt of I had no choice. What was I supposed to do? I had to say it. And even though they know it's wrong, and it's not teaching them right from wrong, it's teaching them that it's okay to lie and manipulate and cheat to get whatever you want. And so when these children are in the home, a mentally challenged individual, a parent, they become a byproduct of that environment as well. So all it does is continue to create that generational trauma. And the parent who's well balanced and wants to create a level of normalcy, they're removed.
Yeah. And the level of fairness is, well, there is no level of fairness, but
No.
so I've been accused of mental health the whole way through, and I've paid approximately $15,000 or $20,000 to disprove that. I've got 3 mental health reports that are all glowing and all say exactly the same thing. But I asked to get one for her, and I'm the bad guy. How dare you ask that of the mother? How dare I when I've had to do 3? I've also gone and proven now to the police and shown them evidence that she lied in statements. And you know what they say? We don't charge females for making false allegations because we don't want to discourage the next person from making those same claims. And I said, well, all you're doing is encouraging this system of destroying. Like, I actually fear for people having male children. I really do. Like, I'm glad I've got 2 daughters and not men, because any parents of boys, I am so fearful of, because it is so easy to destroy lives. And I'm serving a life sentence now for something that I've never done. And so are my kids. My kids are serving that life sentence for something that they've never done, all because of a narcissistic mother that can't let me be involved, to the point where I'm being replaced by the stepfather, who apparently is the one that they go to when they cry and get upset and all this type of stuff. And he's the new hero in this story, and I'm not.
So what are next steps? You're going to set a hearing today.
Hopefully.
Just another scam to make more money off of you.
Correct. Yeah.
So then what is the expectations after that?
I have none. I'm at the point where I've given up on expectations. Like, what I can't do is I can't give up on my kids, and I have to keep fighting for them. But I have no expectations, because, as I've been told, I could win all of this and prove her completely wrong and still end up with nothing. And some people go, why do you bother keep fighting? And why do you bother keep spending money and all these types of things? And my only thing I can say to that is I need to look my girls in the eye and say, I have done everything I can for both of you to give you a life that you deserve. And that's all I can say. That's my only expectation, because the courts don't care. The politicians don't care. I have written to nearly every politician I can, who one actually has met with me, but that was just a farce, because they said they were going to check this up and do a whole lot of things, and they never do. No one cares. Absolutely no one cares. And I know there's a big problem with domestic violence in this country, particularly with men doing things to women. And I think that's probably everywhere. But until they change this system, they're pushing men to the point of breaking and causing a lot of this themselves by not giving people their day in court and not giving people their say and their chance to be heard. And I suppose for me, in terms of those expectations, is I could get this date today that's 9, 12, 18 months down the track and still not be any closer to seeing my kids. And what's stupid about it, and as I've said before, one day I'm not a danger, the next day I am. And the next day I'm not a danger again, and then the next day I am. I'm a goddamn teacher of 20 years, third in charge of a senior high school. Like, What danger do I actually possess? And no one's been able to actually tell me that. And I asked the judge, what danger do I present? I don't know. It's just in case is the words, like just in case. The best interest of the children is to keep them safe. Well, if the best interest of their children is to isolate them and alienate me or them from their entire paternal family, then I'd like to see any stats that can prove that's the best interest of the children.
So how do you stay balanced and grounded, and what are you doing for you?
Probably lucky that I found a great partner, and I do a lot with her kids, take her kids to train. Like, this is the other stupid thing. I can take her kids to training and to the park and play soccer and to all of that stuff. I can be a parent, and she goes out and goes away and the kids are here, and that's fine, which is absolutely normal, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But I can do that for them, but I can't do that for my own children. I'm still obviously keeping fit, staying fit and exercising and doing all those types of things, getting involved in my own social activities, whether it be golf or meeting up with friends and all those types of things. Very, what is it? It's a sugar coating on something when you can't speak to your kids, you can't see your kids. I don't know what they're doing today. I don't know what they're doing tomorrow. I don't know where they are. It's school holidays here in Australia. They could be away somewhere. I wouldn't know. My oldest actually broke her finger at a skate park the other day, and she had a specialist appointment yesterday. I still don't know how that specialist appointment went. I don't know if she needs an operation. I don't know if she needs strapping I don't know, because I'm unable to contact them and ask. So I've had no feedback and no discussions with the mother about it. I just don't know. So every day I wake up, and it's one of those things, it's sad. You just learn to accept it. You learn to live in fear, in pain, psychologically every single day.
So you got lucky, you found somebody great. How does this impact her?
Severely.
Yeah.
She also, and her boys, as I said, are the same age as my two daughters. They have not seen or spoken to the girls since October as well. And they're not even allowed to they've been banned by the other side of going to see them at any supervised visits that we do get for no reason. We haven't got a reason. I don't know what that reason is, but they've been banned. So the boys in particular, they lost their father recently. So they always ask, when can I see the girls? When can I speak to the girls? Are we going to see them again? Are we going to go on holidays? And I don't know how to explain that. Honestly, it makes me upset. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I can take you to the park and go kick a soccer ball and go and do this, but I can't even ring my own girls to see what they're up to or what they're doing. It's had a massive impact on her and her children, to the point where I can only thank her for putting up with the garbage and the rubbish and the psychological abuse that's been happening. And I don't know what I would do without that support.
Yeah.
But it has been horrific for them as much as me.
And it affects you, it affects them, it affects everyone around you, it affects everyone that knows you, and everything in the court's eyes is just okay as long as the children are safe. And that is the one thing that is not happening, is that they are safe.
Correct. And you hit the nail on the head before about the training. I don't think the judges are trained. I also don't think the psychologists are trained either. Parental alienation seems to be, in this country, a myth.
Yeah.
It's a myth.
Junk science.
Yep, that's right. They don't get it. They don't understand it. And I just wish that these judges or whatever would just lose their own boys for a week just to see what it feels. Take them away for a week just to see what it feels like. Because I get that there are people out there that don't deserve to have children, but that is in the smallest minority of people. They are ripping generations of fathers away for no good reason.
Any final thoughts?
My only final thoughts are, I really appreciate people like you trying to fight this battle. We need more people doing it. We need more people in Australia doing it. And I know there are a few, but I just don't know how we beat this. How do we beat this? How do we get ahead of it? I don't know. Because everywhere I've gone to help or gone to get help, you just can't. No one wants to take up the battle. Politicians, no one cares. Judges, no one cares. We're meant to be in a family court system that protects children. In fact, I think they're doing more damage than good.
Yeah. Well, until you take away the profit, you're not going to ever solve the problem, unfortunately.
Yep.
Well, Scott, thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for being on the Fractured Families podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Fractured Families podcast. I hope our conversation has provided you with support, understanding, and actionable insights to help you navigate your own family challenges. Remember, healing is a journey, and reaching out for help is a sign of strength. You're not alone. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more families in need. You can contact me on social media at Parental Alienation is Real and visit our website for additional resources and ways to get involved. Stay strong, stay connected, and keep fighting for the family bonds that matter most. Until next time, take care and stay resilient.